The Titanic, in that serene moment of departure, carried with her more than cargo and dreams. She carried a fragile illusion of invincibility. Joseph, how are you?
I'm doing good.
So remind us where you are.
I'm in Florida right now.
Yeah? Is that where you were last time we chatted?
Yes, I
Okay.
was.
Now, this book, very different to the last one. The last one was a time-traveling sci-fi fiction historic, great book. It was The Two Presidents. Now, this one is a non-fiction book. Do you prefer to write fiction or non-fiction?
I prefer to write nonfiction, I think. Because I went to school for history,
Right?
so I I prefer nonfiction, but I'm I come up with both types of stories.
I would think non-fiction, it's more critical because you could get things wrong, but in fiction you can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So what attracted you to the story of, well, these stories of these three great ships?
Well, overall, I've been kind of obsessed with Titanic for a long time, and technically, I started writing this long before the other one. I
Yeah,
just and I just finally got this one done and was able to get it produced and
yeah, yeah.
written.
And now it's out there.
Yeah,
So, so Titanic was your original obsession. Was that because of a movie?
partially, but it's just something I was just always interested in. Uh, I really wanted to get this finished because my grandfather was in hospice at the time when I was finishing this up.
Oh, goodness
I
me.
I wasn't quite able to get it before he passed, but I dedicated the book to him.
Okay. Yeah, so that was what drove you on to get it finished. Yeah. Because
Yeah,
I should imagine starting a book is one thing, finishing it is the real deal. That separates the amateurs from the pros.
yeah. I got a few unfinished stuff that I haven't gotten around to
I'm sure
finishing.
every author's got that, but as long as they got plenty of finished work, that's okay. They're a pro author. Yeah. So how do you start the research for this book then?
Well, in this case, I just did it over time and slowly put it together. I
Yeah.
just, like I said, I finally just got motivated to actually fully commit to finishing it.
Yeah. I think because of the movie history, for me growing up as a kid, watching the 1950s film on TV, A Night to Remember, was my first introduction to Titanic. And then, of course, when the James Cameron film came out in the late 90s, that just reignited the Titanic's appeal. But I think very few people realize that the Titanic was only one of three ships. Were you aware of that going in?
Oh yeah, I was aware of that. I already knew a lot about the Olympic and well, for Britannic, I only became aware of that because of a History Channel special they came up where they dove down to the Britannic because that's within scuba diving range in Greece.
Right, right, yes, yes. So, do you have a favorite of the three ships?
I mean, Titanic's the one I was mostly obsessed with,
Yeah,
and I put other stuff into it, like describe how Olympic pretty much hit everything throughout its
yeah,
career.
yeah. And it was a long career too, because Olympic was the first of the three that was built, wasn't she?
Yes.
Yeah, and so she set the standard for that class of ship. And in the book, you explain all the business shenanigans going on at the time with the competition between Cunard and the White Star Line, the two big ocean liner companies that had that transatlantic route, which was the big cash cow at that time. And I found that just as fascinating because I knew next to nothing about that. Did you learn stuff along the way that gave you a bit of a surprise?
Mostly that Cunard is now owned by Carnival Cruise Lines.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Wow. Yeah. Um, wow. I'm originally from Liverpool, which is where the White Star Line headquarters were. In fact, Liverpool was written on the back of the Titanic. It might have been written on the back of all three of them. I don't know. You'd probably know better than me. But there's a joke because a lot of people worked for Cunard back in the day. Liverpool was the biggest seaport in Europe in the 1950s. And the joke is some bloke says, my dad worked for Cunard. And the next bloke said, my dad worked hard as well. And obviously the joke is, he thought my dad worked effing hard. You know what I mean? My dad worked for Cunard. And in a Liverpool accent, that's a joke that really works. That I'll maybe cut out of this video because it doesn't look like it has this time. Okay, so was there a favourite fact you learned just about any of the individual ships? Because you go through all the engineering in there and the water sealed chambers that were supposed to make them unsinkable. Though you point out in the book they never claimed that they were unsinkable, did they? But what was your favourite fact, say from an engineering perspective, of the three ships?
They were kind of all different, despite being the same class ship. They were all different because, well, Olympic and Titanic were originally built and designed to be pretty much the same, though there were a few changes, minor changes between it, but then they made major changes to Olympic after Titanic sank, but had to retrofit those changes. Because they were still building Britannic's actually wider than the other one, and that's what gave its more unique lifeboat davits.
Yes, and obviously one of the big changes they made to retrofit to Olympic was the extra lifeboats. And you do explain in the book the reason why Titanic didn't have enough lifeboats for the amount of passengers on board. Do you want to explain that?
Yeah, because at the time it was based off ship gross tonnage, but ships had become, but that was from like the early 1800s, 1850s.
Yeah.
Ships had grown so big that it didn't really work anymore. But
Yeah.
no one wanted to do anything about it.
Yeah, it was a fascinating fact because I think that's a question that I don't think gets asked enough. Is like, why weren't there enough lifeboats on board? And it was that to do with the tonnage, and it was also that people figured that if a ship went down, other ships would come to its rescue, and the lifeboats could be ferried backwards and forwards, carrying multiple passengers to the rescue boat, which seems a bit silly when you're in places like the North Atlantic, which is very, very big. And as it turned out, it did take a while for ships to show up and rescue the survivors of the sinking, didn't it?
Yeah, it took a while, and I mean, Titanic lasted quite a while sinking. They kind of just got lucky it didn't fall over on its side,
Yeah.
because Britannic sank in just under an hour, if I recall correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Titanic took at least two.
Yeah. And you also mentioned that Olympic was almost one of the ships that picked up survivors. And the reason why she didn't is a bit weird too, isn't it?
Yeah, well, she was still fairly far away, but she got the call, immediately turned around and started heading towards it. But by the time Carpathia got there and it was clear it wasn't really needed anymore, they decided that it might have been a bit of a shock to see an identical version of Titanic show up.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they may have overthought that. I don't think passengers who were in danger of drowning or freezing to death would have cared if they were on board something that looked exactly like the thing they just come off.
Yeah, well, Carpathia picked up all the survivors because people didn't last long in the water. There are Titanic Museum exhibits where they chill the water where you put your hand in to see how long you would last. People don't last that long before taking their hand out of the water.
Wow, that's a great idea to give people an idea of just how horrific this thing is. I noticed on the internet, it was only last week actually, that there used to be a Titanic board game in the 70s where you had to go around the board and find a lifeboat and whatever before the ship sunk. There's like a model of the ship at the top of the board game, and it was sinking all the time. That's really in poor taste, isn't it? Because that's the other thing with the Titanic. Was it 1,500 lives were lost?
Yeah, pretty much. It was just a lot of people did not make it, but this is the 70s, so a lot of stuff was. There's quite a few things not in the best taste.
Yeah, and that was just one of them. Yeah. But Olympic had an amazing story as well, though. Do you want to just talk about her first of all? The first of the Olympic class liners.
Yeah, Olympic got launched earlier because, well, it was the first one. And then when you have a first ship, you expect problems. Olympic had quite a few problems.
Yeah.
And because it was so big, it started hitting stuff or had other stuff hit it, like the HMS Hawk, an icebreaker designed to ram ships, hit it while it was leaving once. And then during the First World War, it was requisitioned for troop transport. At one point, they saw a U-boat, and the advice at the time was for ships to ram the U-boats. No ship had actually done this. Olympic was the only one to pull this off.
Yeah.
And it cut right through the U-boat, but it didn't stop for survivors. It just kept going, and another ship had to show up to pick up the survivors from the U-boat.
Wow. So I wonder if it hadn't been for what happened to the Titanic, whether Olympic and Britannic would be more famous ships in their own right. Because Titanic eclipsed the other two as far as, fame or infamy. Because the story of each of them is an amazing story. Let's talk about Britannic, which was the last of them to be built. Because she ended up with an amazing career as well, hospital ship and all sorts of things.
Yeah, well, she was being built last because they only had two slips to build them. So as soon as Olympic was done, they started building Britannic. They set up they went ahead and started building that, and made changes to make it wider to include a double hull. Because Olympic, they had to take up inner space to put in its double hull.
Mm-hmm.
Britannic, they just made it wider to include a double hull, which made it slightly more stable. By the time they had launched it and were getting ready to make it all luxurious and stuff, because luxury ocean liner, well, World War I started and no one wanted to go to Europe or cross the Atlantic unless they were leaving because World War I. So it got laid up, then requisitioned as a hospital ship. It was the same captain who was part of the construction project and overseeing the layout, who sailed it and watched the ship sink.
Wow. Yeah. So, and that's the one that's in Greece, and it's within scuba diving depth.
Yes, but because it's considered a war grave, you need permission from both the British and the Greece to go there. Plus, it's privately owned by someone else, the wreck.
Right. So expeditions do go, though, who get permission. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not really in that deeper water either. Yeah.
No, it's like 400 something feet, I think.
Yeah.
It might be simply less. I don't remember off the top of my head at the moment.
So although this book is about the 3 Olympic class ocean liners, obviously a great deal of the book deals with Titanic. When you were researching it, was there something you learned about Titanic that you had no idea about before, even though there's so much has been written and documentaries and movies have been made about Titanic?
The women, children first, they had different policies for each side of the ship. Like one was women, children first, but then would allow men on. The other side of the ship was women, children only.
Right, okay. Right. Right. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And there was a guy on board who survived it.
J. Bruce Ismay, he was the head of the company.
Oh, he was the
Head of
head
White Star Line.
of the head of White Star Line was on board the Titanic.
Yes, he was also head of the International Merchant Marine, White Star's parent company, and worked directly under J.P. Morgan, who was
Right.
also supposed to be on the ship, but he backed out at the last minute.
Right. And that could have changed the world we know today with J.P. Morgan. Yeah. So the bloke who was the head of White Star Line, do you think there was something? Was he given preferential treatment to get off as the ship went down?
Well, he was on the literal last lifeboat.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the last lifeboat to be launched successfully, there was another one, but it fell over, and
Right. Okay.
people just stood on top of it while it was slowly sinking itself.
Because he had a hard time of it, didn't he, this fella, in later life, in coming to terms with it?
Yeah, he pretty much left his job, left his position, and became reclusive.
Right.
I had a quote he said to his uh, granddaughter or grandson, I think, about how the only time he mentioned it, that was the only time he mentioned being in a shipwreck.
Wow. Wow. And he was on the Titanic, and he was also the head of White Star Line at the time. Wow. So is the official story of what happened to the Titanic accurate? Because we hear conspiracy theories saying it wasn't necessarily the iceberg and there was other things going on. And do you think that what's officially the official account is true?
Well, yeah, well, I think so, because they could technically see the nameplate on the wreck of
Yeah.
said Titanic.
Yeah.
Also, it probably wouldn't be worth it. And right as day broke after the sinking, they're not 100% sure, but the reports of there's an iceberg with red paint on it right in their
Okay.
vicinity.
Right. Okay. That's your smoking gun right there, isn't it? Yeah. That's
Yeah.
your, yeah. Okay. So how accurate do you think the James Cameron film was to the story?
I think he did a good job. I know James Cameron really likes accuracy. Like, well, during the 2012 re-release, he got a call from Neil or tweet from Neil deGrasse Tyson saying, "Hey, the stars weren't accurate during this time of year." So he went in and re-CGI'd the entire night sky so it would be accurate for that release.
Right, okay. Well, I'm guessing that Neil deGrasse Tyson is such a I've never met him, but he seems like such a likable fella, especially for an astrophysicist or whatever he is. And he says you've got that wrong. I think he's one of the guys you would actually change the night sky for. Wow, okay. My thing was I always wondered if Leonardo DiCaprio's girlfriend was not Kate Winslet, and instead if he had an inflatable girlfriend, he may have survived. He could have used her as a flotation device. The Titanic still fascinates us. It was only, a couple of years ago when that submarine went down to check out the wreck and it imploded and killed everybody on board. There is talk that there is a curse of the Titanic. Do you believe that?
I'm not sure.
Not sure. So there's still some doubt that there may be a curse.
Yeah, well, that submarine was honestly poorly designed, and James Cameron went down there a lot. He said one of the reasons he wanted to make the film was to have an excuse to visit the Titanic wreck on the studio's dime.
Yeah, yeah. But do you think there's any credence in there being a curse?
Uh, there are people trying to there's I don't know. Honestly, I don't. I didn't look too much into it. Uh, because it would only really affect the Titanic, and the Titanic went down immediately during its maiden voyage, pretty much. So yeah.
I don't know. I'll tell you why I asked. Because I had an experience. Was it 2 weeks ago? Was it 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago? I think it was only 2 weeks ago. As you know, I'm originally from Liverpool, and I used to work on BBC Radio Merseyside. And I have a friend who writes a fanzine for Liverpool Football Club called Red All Over the Land. And we regularly, a few times a year, John puts on events in Liverpool with former Liverpool Football Club players, and I host the events. And they usually go very well. And we did one a few weeks ago, and we'd usually do them in different hotels and whatever. And the hotel he chose was what is now called the White Star Line Hotel. And it is the former offices of White Star Line. In fact, there's a balcony outside, which is where apparently the announcement was made to the people of Liverpool, because of course before newspapers, because they got the story, because it took a while, and they announced to the world that the Titanic had sunk, and apparently read a list of survivors they knew at the time, and there are various accounts of the story. And this building is on Liverpool's waterfront. My granddad always used to call it the Streaky Bacon building because the brickwork looks like streaky bacon. And so it was this hotel, and we hosted the event there. Well, I had a nightmare. I checked in. I stayed in the hotel that night, and I checked in, and I had a suit, because I'm the host of the event. And I got there. Got up on the train, so I was just in jeans and t-shirt and stuff. And I'd hung my white shirt up and my suit and everything. And when I went up to the room to get changed for the event, I knocked the rail in the wardrobe. The suit and the white shirt and everything fell into the bottom of the wardrobe where it was dark and I couldn't see. But an iron had fallen over, and it was full of water, and poured water all over my shirt. And I had to try and dry it on the heater, but I ran out of time before I was due to start. And I ended up having to do the event in a wet shirt. And the event didn't go as well as all the others. And I was just wondering, was I another victim of the curse of the Titanic? Not nearly as bad as what's happened to a lot of people if there is a curse, to be honest. I wasn't, the building didn't implode or anything. But still,
Yeah.
of all the events we've done, this one was not, for me, the best experience. I wonder if it's got anything to do with a curse.
I don't know if it's the curse or the luck of the Titanic, I guess.
Right, the Titanic's got bad luck attached to it. A couple of years ago, did you hear this? There was an Australian billionaire talked about building a replica of the Titanic. Do you know about that?
Yeah, I heard about that, but I don't think it really went anywhere because I I remember that guy. He also wanted to build a robotic Jurassic Park. So
Oh, did he? Okay.
yeah,
Would making a replica of the Titanic be a good idea, do you think? Or is it a bit, is it like building a reminder to a horrible tragedy?
I know people want to, and because they're doing it specifically after Titanic, but technically White Star Line did a replica of it in Britannic,
Of
which
course. Of course,
launched
yes.
right after, and
Yeah. And at
yeah,
its time it was cutting edge, but now it's not probably a great design now, I wouldn't have thought.
no, it's much smaller compared to a lot of mega cruise ships now, and I mean, there's probably a market for that, but that's business stuff, pretty much. And you can't really. It's. I know the dock in Southampton where
Yeah.
Titanic left is still there, and I've heard it's sometimes still used.
The actual
But
dock that it left from. Wow.
yeah, though the one it would arrive to in New York, I don't. I, it's a husk, and the Cunard one. I found this out after I wrote the book. I think the Cunard one's actually straight up gone. It's
Right.
been replaced with a park.
Okay. Right. Right. Okay. How did you find the process of turning this book into an audiobook?
I found it good because I wanted to still be able to talk about it and make it accessible for pretty much normal people. That's a main motivation behind my historical type writing.
What, and you wanted it to be available in audiobook form as well?
Yes.
Yeah, because for a lot of people, there are a lot more convenient way of accessing books. Obviously, there's people with reading and vision difficulties that just love audiobooks, and then there are people who, with busy lifestyles, like to multitask. They might be commuting or something, and they can get their audiobook fix in. Yeah, I really enjoyed doing it, and it was, at the time I was doing it, it was good because people were saying, "Oh, what book are you working on right now?" I said, "Oh, I'm working on one about the Titanic and its sister ships." "Oh, wow, but that's interesting." Yeah, no, it's great. So it was something that, because often I'm working on books and people have no idea, if it's about goblins or something, they can't relate to it unless they're into that kind of thing. But everybody knows the story of the Titanic, or thinks they know, but there is a lot more to it and a lot more depth. And the way that you've written this book, you explain it. You also explain how things changed after the Titanic and the business behind the setting up of the three ocean liners, and the competitive reasons why it was done in that way, the engineering, the way that the radio operators reacted on the Titanic when it sunk was quite emotional, because you had actual transcripts of transmissions they made, and I really enjoyed that. And I think it just brings history to life in a unique way. You've done a magnificent job on the book. It really is great, and I'm so proud to be able to say that I narrated it. So thank you for that, Joseph. What is
You're
next? What is next for Joseph E. Boro?
I have a few projects that I'm trying to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
I have a draft for a book on a space race.
Oh,
I
that'd be
have,
great. What, the 60s space race?
yes.
Yes,
I
because there's
have
one on now, really, as well, isn't there? But the 60s space race, yeah, that would be a great book.
I have an outline for a biography on Robert Smalls, who was a slave in the U.S. Civil War, who
Mm-hmm.
stole the Confederate ship and surrendered and later became a congressman.
Wow, what a story.
Yeah, and I do have an outline. Like I said, my grandfather passed recently. I've been wanting to make a biography for him. I just need to talk to more people on that one.
Okay, and what's his life story briefly? What business was he in?
He was well. He grew up in New York, and then he had a troubled childhood. He was of five children, had a troubled childhood, and later joined the Navy, having lied to join the Navy. Later served in Vietnam. There was an incident where his ship stole. He they stole a kangaroo from an Australian Navy ship. Though it was a fake kangaroo, not a real kangaroo. And he later became a regional CEO of the organization Volunteers of America.
Uh-huh.
Has a
Wow.
has a small playground park in Washington D.C. named after him, and
Nice.
just something I've been wanting to do, but that's going to take a lot of research. It's, as I said, other stuff I have more research done on ahead of time.
Yeah. Well, good luck with all that. They sound like great projects. I hope you get them off the ground, and I hope you choose me to narrate the audiobook versions. Well, this book is called The Olympians. It's the story of the Olympic, Titanic, and Britannic. It's by Joseph E. Boro. It's an audiobook now. If you click the link, if you're watching on YouTube and you click the link, there's a link to where you can download the audiobook through Amazon. And continued success. Thank you very much, Joseph.
Thank you.